Now, one of those basking in being right today is Stephen A. Smith. He warned the president not to go to Game 3. He warned him what it would mean if the Knicks lost with him there, and what would happen if after that the Knicks won last night. The president responded by calling Stephen A. dummy, but now he looks to be pretty smart because it all went the way Stephen A. suggested. So what did he make of last night and what it means for what happens next? The man joins me right now. I'm surprised you still have a voice after all of that you must have been feeling and shouting about last night. Neither of us has ever seen anything like it. But what do you think it means on a bigger level about what that setting was and what was so upsetting to you and me about it, about the prices and who was excluded and why?
Those were the kind of things that I was pointing out, which is why I never wanted the president to come for Game 3. And when he came for Game 3, remember, it was nothing about politics. It was about his presence, the inconvenience it would cause traffic-wise, the fact that a watch party outside Madison Square Garden would have to be canceled, and that there were an abundance of patrons out there. That was their way of being at the Garden and feeling alive and entrenched in the mix, because they couldn't afford to get those exorbitant seats that were for $10,000, $17,000, going as high as $101,000 before the price was minimized and cut in half because the president had arrived. The fact that you had that rabid kind of following, the New York Knicks had been feeding off of it en route to a 13-game playoff winning streak. The all-time record was 15 by the Golden State Warriors in 2017. The Knicks were 2 wins away from not just winning the championship, but accomplishing it in historic fashion, and it got ruined by his arrival. And so that's the kind of stuff that I was pointing to. The fact that you had an abundance of fans out there, they didn't even mind not being in the Garden because they were together as New Yorkers, as Knicks fans, celebrating the ambiance, the environment, the fervor that you can't get from just watching it at home. And the president's arrival compromised that. I pointed that out. He took offense to it. So be it. I ended up being right. He was there. They lost. He's gone. They won.
And what do you think that means now? Does it reverberate beyond this series, or do you think it's just one moment in time and done?
I think it's just one moment in time. I mean, I'm not here to engage in condemnation. I was pointing the finger at him, not just because he was the president of the United States, not just because no sitting president had ever attended an NBA Finals, not just because of the congestion that exists in New York City where 8.5 to 9 million people reside, but also because the guy's a New Yorker and a lifelong Knicks fan. So when we talk about the suffering, the fact that it's been 53 years since the Knicks have won a championship, that it's been 32 years since they've been able to legitimately compete for a championship, like in 1994 when they went to a 7th game against Houston and lost in 1999 to the San Antonio Spurs. He's a Knicks fan. He knows, and he can sit up there and get all petulant all he wants to and call me names and you know, question my intellect and all of this other stuff. He's a Knicks fan. He knows. I've seen Donald Trump at many Knicks games over the year. He's a true fan of the Knicks. It's not just lip service. He really, really is a Knicks fan, and he has supported the Knicks for decades, which means he knows what that environment was like. He knows we hadn't seen anything like that before. He knows what it meant to New Yorkers to be outside celebrating and being rabid and inspiring this New York Knicks team to a championship, and he was still selfish enough to come anyway, knowing that it would bounce thousands of people out of the mix. I just thought that was the wrong thing to do, so I said so.
What do you think about Dolan, the owner of the Knicks? If they don't win in San Antonio and they come back home, what a huge move would it be if he had a lottery and just gave the tickets randomly away to the fans and put it as 1973 prices? Because as I was arguing, look, I get that it's a business, Stephen A., but he's going to make a fortune off this run anyway.
Well,
he doesn't need the ticket prices. Right.
He's already made it worth billions. He's already made a boatload of money with this playoff run and the amount of games that the New York Knicks have been able to host. So the money's already there, so much so that the Garden put out a press release just the other day where they were talking about how for games 3 and 4, he gave out 250 tickets to underprivileged kids for each game. And that if there were a game 6 at the Garden, it was going to be 750 tickets that he was going to give out to underprivileged kids. But my point is, those are people inside of the Garden. But the Knicks are riding a wave that has been provided to them by New York City. And so when you've got New York City, if not New York State, and everywhere they go, they're celebrating you and they're pushing and they're prodding in an effort to inspire you to be all you can be so you could deliver a championship to the city for the first time since 1973. That should be enough incentive right there to shove everything aside and to be about the city, because the city has been about you, even though you haven't deserved it. This man has been residing over the New York Knicks since 1999. He's been residing over the New York Rangers since 1999. Neither franchise has won a damn thing under his stewardship. This would be the first, and he cannot deny the credit that's deserving towards the fan base that has propelled and inspired this team along the way. So you would think that he would do something and make a grand gesture like you just articulated he should, but I sincerely doubt that he'll do it, and that's the shame of it all. That's what we're pointing to. Our better selves, per se. Let's touch on that and do what's right by the city. God forbid we'd expect the president of the United States, who swears up and down he loves New York, got 43.3% of the vote. Over 3.5 million votes came his way. And even though he didn't win the state, he still gave the Republican Party a like 10% bump in the state over Democrats compared to what it was in 2020 and what it was in years past. He brags about what New York has done for him and for the GOP. How come he didn't turn around and do it for them in Game 3? This series might have been over by now. We might have had a sweep, and the New York Knicks might have been crowned NBA champions last night had the man never showed up to the Garden.
Well, we'll see what happens. A lot of people voted for him because they were desperate for a difference to what's wrong, and those problems have only grown since this administration started. So we'll see where it all heads up on the court and off, my brother. I'm glad you were right. And I look forward to what happens next and talking to you about it. Stephen A. Smith, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Let's hope they close it out in 5. Let's hope they close it out in 5. If not, they better not lose Game 6. You don't want a Game 7 back in San Antonio.
No, you do not. All right, thank you, my brother. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.